right, welcome to Diagnosis Redefined. We are here in Haven Chiropractic and Wellness in our new facility together with doctors Colin and Kari, and we're super excited because we have been wanting to do this for a few years now. We've known you guys for quite a few years, and we've always had this dream, this vision of opening up a facility together where we have multiple holistic modalities all together. So we got the functional medicine side, we've got chiropractic, and today I really want to talk about the chiropractic side because I think of all the holistic modalities out there, it is the most maligned and the most misunderstood. And so we're going to dig deep into some of the myths about chiropractic and learn about how chiropractic can do more for you than just fix pain. So specifically for people who are dealing with chronic illness, which is most of the audience here, we want to learn about how it really is part of optimal health. All right, but before we dive into that conversation, I do want to talk about a sponsor. So Equip Protein, this is something we get asked all the time about what is the cleanest protein out there, and we always suggest Equip Protein. It is a beef protein isolate. So a lot of our clients, they also have a clean coffee as well. But a lot of clients ask about protein because there's a lot of nefarious proteins out there. Whey protein is very popular, but with most of the clients that we are working with, they have very sensitive digestive systems. So this uses the actual beef protein instead of whey, which can be really, really hard. Their clean coffee is also third-party tested for pesticides and mold. So if you have a daily coffee habit, you should probably have a clean coffee option. If you go on to their website, you can get a discount, 20% off, if you put in the code chronically healthy. All right, so let's get into it here with doctors Colin and Kari Hickey of Haven Chiropractic and Wellness. Dr. Colin, can you first tell us about how you got into chiropractic?
Yeah, so my story isn't super crazy. I was in undergraduate studies and had no idea what I wanted to do. I was a film major at one point. I really just was kind of lost. So I was going into between my sophomore and junior years and decided that I was going to shadow every job possible. And so I think it was 70 different jobs that I shadowed and I hated. So it was just, a couple hours with each one, but I hated them all. So then my mom said, okay, try my chiropractor, because I was pretty close to done. Just, we'll see, finishing and getting a random degree, whatever was available. And I loved chiropractic. So I walked in the door and people were smiling, people were getting helped. And when I was shadowing people, everyone came in with an issue and left with a little bit better than they were. And that's what I wanted to do, is I wanted to make sure everybody got a little bit better every single day and just to be able to help people. So that was kind of the passion that started it, and I just dove in headfirst and went from there.
I can totally see you going for a film major. So if anyone comes in the office, Colin's personality is very, very bright. He's very social, very bubbly. So I can totally see you going into film.
It was fun for the couple classes that I took,
Yeah.
I think there was a sci-fi class that was my favorite, where we started at black and white films and went all the way through modern era sci-fi. That was pretty cool.
Nice.
But
Nice.
yeah, it was definitely just not quite the right fit.
Yeah. Instead, you wanted to help people.
Yeah.
So, perfect. And Dr. Kari, you do animal chiropractic. Now, you started off on the human side, of course,
Yes.
and then went on into animal chiropractic. So tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yes, so originally wanted to be a veterinarian, started school for that, realized I did not want to do an internship at a farm. I grew up on a farm, no thank you. So then I ended up changing degrees and going for something in the science field. I always knew I wanted to be a doctor. I loved school. I still love school. I love learning. I'm always curious, always always listening to podcasts, reading books, just trying to learn more. And I think I shadowed a chiropractor once. I really didn't understand what they were doing. But then the opportunity came up to go to chiropractic school. And honestly, I think it was just and I prayed about it and it just felt like the right thing. I was adjusted, I think, once before I went to chiropractic school. Still didn't understand. So then, just got in early there and started there before I even finished my bachelor's degree. And once I got into the program, I started learning more about how it's not so much That medical mindset that I grew up with my mom being a nurse, was very much, you have a symptom, you have a medication to treat the exact symptom, and that's what life is. That's what medicine is. That's what health is. And chiropractic was so much more than that. It was, why don't we look at how the body works and give it what it needs so it can work better, because it has that ability to heal itself. It doesn't need another medication, another synthetic thing thrown at it. It just needs more of the good things that we can provide via diet, chiropractic, and everything else.
Yeah. And so then eventually you were like, hey, animals can benefit from this too, and they're fun to
Yes.
work with, and yeah. So,
Yes, yeah, I got a dog. She had diarrhea. The only thing that helped with it was chiropractic.
Yeah.
And since then, she had neurological issues, incontinence, tore
Allergies.
both of her CCLs, and chiropractic has helped with every single thing. So that was definitely my push to get into chiropractic for animals.
Awesome. Yeah. And I liked what you said too about like conventional, it's going after the symptom and let's find a medication to treat the symptom. And with chiropractic, it is supposed to be more proactive, but I do think a lot of people still use it as reactive
Yes.
because we're in this society of like that's how we're taught that medicine is. And so we're going to be talking more about like how can we use chiropractic in a more proactive way. Now that doesn't mean if you're not dealing with something that chiropractic can't help, but first I want to dispel some of the objections that we get when people hear chiropractic. I know we've heard this when we're talking to clients. I've had a few consults who say like, oh, well, I've had surgery and I'm told don't let a chiropractor touch me. So they're hearing a lot of things from the conventional side of things that scares them into, and then they see like the TikTok videos where it's like crunch, crunch, crack. And they're like, oh, that seems dangerous. So I guess my question to you is if someone has had some sort of trauma, would chiropractic be beneficial?
Extremely. Yeah, whether it's trauma and they haven't seen a medical doctor, definitely we can see 99% of issues. There is certain things like broken bones that I can't fix, but for the most part, that is the case. Now, if you've had a surgery, chiropractic can still help you. Actually, I do recommend people that have surgery to still come in because chiropractic helps heal. Now, we probably will avoid that area depending on what the surgery is, but those nerves don't just start from that one spot. They came from somewhere else. So usually chiropractic starts at the root of where those nerves come from, and then that actually does help that healing process. So there's a whole bunch of different things that along that route, but it's kind of the gist is yes, we can help.
But not just that. It's because a lot of people have spinal surgeries and then they think chiropractic cannot help them. So with neck surgeries, low back surgeries, yes, we see people in here every single day that have had those surgeries and they notice huge changes and benefits from chiropractic. Of course, we do it a little bit differently. We're not going to go through and do a manual physical adjustment in those areas. We have a lot of techniques that we use that are a lot more gentle, and even adjusting in the neck can improve the low back because the entire body is connected. Which everyone who has a chronic disease or has been in the healthcare field, kind of knows that at this point.
And even with those spinal surgeries, if it's like a fusion of multiple bones, multiple years after that, it can be adjusted as just instead of as two bones, we adjusted as one bone. So there is differences there, but unfortunately, a lot of the medical doctors don't really know what chiropractors do. So they just tend to go on the safe side and say, oh, don't go to the chiropractor. But there's a lot that we can do for those people.
Well, and you're working with the nerves. I know, like we're thinking about the alignment of the spine, obviously, but the real change happens with how the nerves are then interacting, right? When the spine is aligned, and I think with surgery, with what they're doing, they're thinking they're fixing the problem with surgery. And what often I've personally seen as an X-ray tech, spinal surgeries, I can only name one person out of the probably hundreds of people I've x-rayed that have felt better after a spinal surgery. And a lot of times what ends up happening is even if they do feel better, 10 years later, they may have to have another one. And so chiropractic could be a way to maybe one, prevent the surgery, and then if they have the surgery, prevent having another one.
Yeah, especially with those second surgeries, a lot of times it's the bones above and below that fusion that really takes the brunt, because those bones that got fused can't move. And that's what the spine does, is move so that we can move. So the ones above and below have to make up for that and take on wear and tear, and that's where those extra surgeries come into play, and we can make sure that that doesn't have to happen. Preventing those surgeries, there is a time and a place depending on the severity, but a lot of times we can prevent it, because the recovery, like you're saying, from those surgeries does take a lot of time and effort as well. So people try to think that you get the surgery, you're going to be better in no time, but it does take that time, that recovery, and especially if you don't do that right, you don't follow all those steps perfectly, there can be more issues that arise from that as well. So 100% it can be really hard on the body.
Yeah. And another thing that I think keeps people from seeing a chiropractor is, I mean, I've heard this, growing up and everything. Chiropractors are quacks. It's quackery. It's not real. They're not real doctors. What would you say to that?
Well, number one, we definitely have pretty much the same amount of education in very, very similar topics as medical doctors. I believe we actually have more hours of like sciences and diagnosis, or not necessarily diagnosis, but like nutrition and nervous system, neurological studies than an MD, a medical doctor, would have. They focus more on like pathology of diagnosing each individual thing, while chiropractors focus more on how the body works together and how those systems work. So yes, very, very similar education there. So we are definitely doctors. We went through quite a bit of schooling to get to this point. What was your other question?
That was...
Oh,
well, and just even going on top of that, chiropractic is just a very scientific-based thing. It is about the nerves. It is about how the body is working together, the function of your body, right? So if you're calling chiropractic quackery, you're just not really understanding your anatomy, because it's all coming from the nervous system here. So if really that's all we're doing, is we're making the nervous system work better and able to function at its best. So when you're calling chiropractic quackery, it's just not knowing. It's really ignorance is all it is.
Yeah.
And now, knowing you guys and knowing the way that you guys practice, knowing you guys for years now, it seems that with kind of the misconception that you hear along this, where it's like the chiro quack, where we hear that so much, comes along the lines of the people that do just the crack and the pop, and they're not focused on the other part of, like, especially like chronic disease. They're just focused on getting the people in, popping the body, trying to make them feel maybe a little bit better for 5 minutes, and then send them right back into the building. I know with you guys tend to focus a lot more on the long-term game, the years down game, not just the next 5 minutes game of this. Now, what have you guys seen whenever it comes to chronic disease and chiropractic care? What do you see with this?
I mean, that's just opening the rabbit hole there.
That's the point. Hit it. Run with it. Go.
There's just so many different things. Obviously, we want that 5 minutes. We want you to feel better in the moment. But chiropractic is only about feeling better to a point. Because when we get your body functioning better, you're going to feel better. So that immediate fix is great. And that's what, all the TikTok trends and everything are showing. Even though some of those videos might not be exactly what chiropractic is, they do exaggerate, but that's a whole nother thing. It is making sure that we're really, what I'm looking for, working on your long-term health. So, just trying to know where to start on this topic.
So yes, most people come in for pain, and they don't realize that pain is like that very last signal that shows up after things have been going on for so long. Like, a lot of people know, in a lot of the listeners have probably experienced this in their own life, where it has been like a chronic disease where you don't even know it's there for the longest time because it is silent. Your body is constantly trying to adapt and fight things off until it gets to the point where it can't, and you start seeing that dysfunction, and then you start seeing the pain, and that is like the last thing that shows up, the first thing that goes away too. So a lot of people come in and as soon as they're out of pain, they're like, okay, I'll see you when I need you again. And it's like, okay, well, that was just the tip of the iceberg. We haven't even addressed and healed the root cause of what's going on here. So that is why we really promote, number one, coming in and getting care before the issues even arise, but also staying on for what we like to consider as like wellness care and preventative, even after we get through that initial pain phase. Because yeah, especially with, chronic disease, I mean, we've seen all sorts of things from, infertility, that people are able to get pregnant with chiropractic care, decrease inflammation. We've seen some, what was it, polycystic kidney disease that started reversing and changing, and the lab values were all going down, so that was really cool to see.
Chronic headaches, chronic migraines, sleeping difficulties, it really ranges the entire spectrum. I mean, even what most people think about with chiropractic too is posture. Everybody needs to have good posture, which is very true. We pound on that. But everybody sees their grandma or some other elderly people where they're in that forward, almost like humped position, and that starts when you're young. It's not something that once you're old, it's, we're inevitable, you're going to have this terrible posture. It starts, when you're 20. And when you have that slump forward posture because you're at the computer, you're scrolling on your phone all day, that's where it starts, and you can lead to that hump over time. And really, we're seeing it nowadays with technology even starting way younger and younger. We see a lot of neck curvatures as soon as we x-ray at in kids even sometimes, having that really signs that lead to that. So it's a lot of it is with chiropractic is preventative so that we can take away those long-term negative things.
Well, and I know with my own personal experience, so like recently you guys started working on me and did the x-ray, and I'm kind of like, I don't really have any pain. I mean, sure, every once in a while the lat will lock up, but it's probably because I worked out wrong, or I always have an excuse for like why that muscle is bothering me. And then, it gets better on its own, and like that's fine. So I didn't really have any real complaints, but it's like, sure, I'll see what you guys can do for me. And so that first consult with you was really eye-opening with the x-ray to see like how messed up my neck really was. And then you were able to kind of connect the dots for me. And I don't care if you talk about my case. I'd like you to kind of explain like what you saw in that x-ray, especially I don't think you guys really knew this about me, but with my thyroid, I do have antibodies for it. It is trending low. It's something that I'm working on nutritionally, but then when you saw the x-ray, it's kind of like, oh, well, that actually is affecting your thyroid, which is wild. So can you explain that?
Yes. So with your x-ray, I believe you had a little bit of degeneration starting in that lower neck. So the lower neck is the area where those nerves actually come out and go to the thyroid.
Directly.
So if that area is not moving correctly, not doing what it's supposed to do, those nerves are going to be impacted. Not to the point of like, oh my gosh, your thyroid isn't working at all. It's almost like, I like to think about it almost like a garden hose, where you've got something just putting a little bit of pressure on it. At the end, you're not getting out the full amount of water. And you're not going to look at the very end of the hose and blame that. You're going to look farther up to see where that is. You're still getting water out, just not the full amount that you should be getting. So that is what we look at, especially with your lower neck with chiropractic, is why are we not getting the full amount of communication there? So we go through, address with x-rays, with our exam, and see which area is going to be the root cause, and then do those adjustments, create a plan from there of how we're going to get that moving better so that you can have better long-term health.
Yeah. Well, and another thing is I was in a car accident years ago, but it wasn't in my opinion, wasn't major. I mean, sure, I was sitting at a stoplight, F-150 hit me at like 55 miles per hour. So had some whiplash, but at the time, I just had a mild headache that day, so I never got checked out. And then you guys were able to point out that actually that area right there is where we are seeing problems, probably from that accident. So even though I really wasn't having any pain with it, it's still something that without some chiropractic work is going to keep getting worse and worse.
And based off your x-ray, I would say, your posture was already bad ahead of time.
Yeah, probably.
So it's not like it wasn't
definitely.
just the accident, but yes, the accident, when you have that, predisposition basically with that posture, you had the accident as well, that, that whiplash, all of a sudden that pressure point in your lower neck from your head going forward, that's where a lot of the impact came from. And then all of a sudden you start to get more and more side effects towards your thyroid, which again, it's not going to, just cause everything there. But it can really start the snowball to more thyroid issues. So that's really what we're trying to prevent again is, all that in now. And the reverse case as well is now that you finally are coming into chiropractic, right?
Yeah.
We can work on that so that your thyroid has all the function that it really needs. But it's a combination of things. It's not just chiropractic. It's, eating healthy. It's making sure you're stretching and doing your posture correctly. And those are the tools that we try to give people. It's not just, chiropractic is just one of the tools to have you be your healthiest self.
Well, and on that, I have a little fitness tracker, so I am constantly trying to optimize and that sort of thing, and have been very frustrated with my recovery score that it gives me. And it's like, okay, I've been super consistent with my sleep, and I'm, if I work out, I'm trying to do it in the morning so that it doesn't affect my sleep, and I'm still getting high stress in my sleep. My recovery sucks, and my HRV is low, and I'm like, I don't know what else to do. And so one of the unexpected benefits of what I think I'm a month in of chiropractic was my heart rate variability going up without changing anything else. And so now it's like I almost feel like I'm not even trying, and I'm getting a green recovery. Even on nights where I feel like I could have gotten more sleep, my heart rate variability is staying up. So can you explain how, for anybody who's like in the fitness field and really, looking at HRV now with these fitness trackers, like how chiropractic can help with HRV? Why I'm seeing that?
Yeah. So the brain controls everything, and you've got all of these nerves going to every single cell in the body to help it to function, to tell it what to do. That includes, nutrition in, utilizing that nutrition, waste products out. So when there is stress on the body, which we all go through stress every single day, whether that is the physical, the weightlifting, the all the exercise that we're doing, even for us adjusting, for you guys maybe sitting in chairs, doing the things that you have to do in your daily life, there is the mental and the emotional stressors that we go through. So that is, the email, the grocery bill at Costco, all those little things in our life that are going to be stressors are constantly impacting us, and our bodies are constantly trying to adapt to that. And of course they should be able to. What a lot of athletes can benefit from chiropractic with is, just helping them recover from those stressors faster and more efficiently.
Which is, those small things when you get to certain levels make up the huge difference, right? And so that's where, if you're doing a bicep curl, everybody knows how to do that. You're breaking down the muscle and everything, but if your blood flow is not working properly to that muscle, it's not gonna function, and that can all stem from one part of your spine not working properly, one nerve not going to that muscle. All those things add up, and so that's why really that adjustment, making sure that connection is working properly, not only the muscle, not only the heart, which then sends out the blood flow, then that's where you get the heart rate variability coming into play. It all then makes you heal faster, makes it so that you're ready to go the next day or even an hour later when you're maybe not working out anymore, but you are, doing those things at home that you love, playing with your kids, whatever, too. So it's athletes, it's families, it's the average Joe, the truck driver, every person this really does matter for, because we all get those highs, those lows where, someone almost hit you in the road or something, that's going to affect your heart rate. Everything is connected. So that's where we see a lot of success with that.
Yeah.
Now, I love that you touched on the nerve not talking to the muscle cell, and then they're having that decay inside of the muscle cell. A prime example of this is Boss Rutan. He's an old UFC fighter from back in the day, Pride, all that, and he's got one arm that's extremely muscular. The other arm, not so much, and it's because he's had nerve damage for fighting for so long. That muscle over here on I think it's his right arm, has completely decayed, and it's just half the size of the other arm. So I love the fact that you said that, because that's not another thing that a lot of people don't think about is that nerve connection, and then how the induction there is going to cause you to have better signaling throughout the body. So not only your hormones going to get better because of chiropractic care, but your muscle tone can improve, which then if you're an athlete, well, there's your athletic performance that's going to also improve, because you're actually getting signals from muscle to brain, from brain to muscle, and then it's getting the right supplies that it needs in order to function. So thank you for saying that.
And it really makes a huge difference, I mean, especially, professional athletes, but, even a high school athlete. I mean, when I was in high school playing football or whatever, I had no idea about any of this. I was just like, I'm going to go beat myself up. I'm going to sleep it off. We're going to get better, We're going to get stronger. And that's not really how it works. You do have to make sure everything is connected there. But even if you're not talking about athletes, I mean, this works the exact same way in like elderly with muscle atrophy, right? It's the exact same thing that's going on. It's just going in the opposite direction because they're not building up muscle. They're actually losing muscle because usually these elderly people that we see, they're not moving enough and they don't have the muscle mass to keep doing what they want to do. But yeah, it works the exact same way, whether it's that athlete, whether it's that elderly person, even, just the 10-year-old getting their first muscles of their life. It all works the exact same way in that developmental stage to the trying to maintain it stage.
Yeah, and there's a great doctor, Dr. Gabrielle Lyons, and like if you ever come across a podcast with her, you must listen. It's so good. But her whole clinic is muscle centric medicine, and how like most people don't die of just old age; they're dying of sarcopenia, that wasting of the muscle. And so I think that's a really important point with how the nervous system and the muscle plays, and then that also ties into hormones because your muscle is the biggest endocrine organ in your body, and it's never talked about. It's just like that's just what helps us move our limbs. Like no, it's so much more than that. So it really goes all together. And there's also now a big focus for people, especially who are dealing with a chronic illness, on getting into that rest and digest state, right? We're constantly in that fight or flight. So how can chiropractic help with being able to get into that rest and digest?
Yeah, there are actually specific nerves that are associated with more rest and digest versus that fight or flight. So most of the rest and digest nerves are located right up in our neck, specifically at the very, very top, as well as the very, very bottom of our spine. So that tailbone, that is where we see the most impact. We've seen even like some kids, some ADHD improvement by really focusing in on the neck and the very, very bottom of the spine to, essentially turn off that fight or flight and shift more into like rest and digest. Everyone's heard of the vagus nerve at this point, I swear. It's talked about enough. The vagus nerve, we can actually impact that as chiropractors through the neck, through adjusting the neck, because it travels right down through those first couple of bones. So a lot of times, adults may not like to say it as much. A lot of, we hear it a lot more with like kids and babies and a lot with animals of after that first adjustment, they go and they poop. Because we have triggered that rest and digest. A lot of them will just go home and just have a really good sleep after an adjustment. And that's where healing happens as well, is that rest period. So that's how chiropractic impacts it for whether, you're old, young, or an animal.
Yeah, and it's not just the babies and the dogs. I mean, we do see it a lot in the elderly as well. The middle-aged people don't see it as often because
They just don't tell us.
Well, they don't tell us probably, but they do have a little bit more stressors usually where they're going to their, directly from their adjustment to their job, or they're going to pick up their kid, or, they have those stressors that, even no matter what we do have to have that mental relaxation as well that Dr. Kari was talking about earlier. So it is all connected, but it is a step in the right direction, even though for those people, even if they're not telling us that, I went home and had a bowel movement,
Well, and on the autoimmune side of things, I mean, I have personal experience with this where stress is a huge trigger for autoimmune flares. And like before I was diagnosed with Still's disease, they put me on an anti-anxiety medication because I ended up in a hospital 2 days before finals. And so they were like, here's a medication to squash your anxiety and make you numb, essentially was the answer, just to keep me out of the hospital. So for anyone who is really having a hard time with flares because of stress, like this could be the thing that could really help you out.
Absolutely.
And I know like we've worked together with clients. So like that's what's really cool being in one place is like we've got the functional medicine side, we've got you guys for the chiropractic side, and we've seen benefits with clients who are working with both of us. We just had one that gave a testimonial about how like she was having to see a specialist multiple times a year for her issues, and now he told her don't come back and see me for a year, and she's been working with us together for 5 months. That is huge. And so that's the power of putting all of this together, and that's what I want people to understand, is that there's not one magic bullet that's going to give you optimal health. It takes multiple modalities, and I'm sorry, but that's the truth. I wish there was a magic bullet, but there's not. But this is a part of modality that's just not talked enough when it comes to just overall health and wellness. So,
Well, and people don't like that for both of our businesses. It's not just a one quick fix. It does take that time, whether it's a month to 9 months. Sometimes it depends on the person. And, that's the same thing with our adjustments. We're not adjusting every single thing the exact same way on every person. People sometimes feel like, oh, you're doing the same thing. Well, when I adjust the sacrum this way versus when I adjust the sacrum this way, does completely different things. So it's, to the patient, I'm adjusting the same bone, but I'm doing it completely different. So it really just depends on that day, what they need. For you guys, it's the exact same thing of, what is their restriction that they have to their diet. Some people, broccoli is not good for them to eat, and that's, crazy to some people, because we're told all our lives broccoli's healthy, but that might not be healthy for you. So it's something that every single person is different, and that's what we, I think, as a collaboration, are working on.
Yeah, I love it. Now, we haven't touched much on the animal chiropractic, so I do want to briefly talk about that, because it's something that most pet owners don't even think about. They don't even know it's an option. So they go to the vet, and they're even things that are not clearly spine related, like paralysis and things like that. That is never given as an option, and often is discouraged by vets, which is very frustrating, because I have witnessed dogs walking in here that were not walking a week before, which is amazing. So can you talk about, Dr. Kari, about the animal chiropractic side, and what is so, explain how animals can benefit from chiropractic in ways that we don't expect?
Yeah, so everything is very, very similar. When we just talked about, chiropractic in general, this all applies to them. Of their bodies, they can heal themselves too, just like ours. They are constantly regenerating and healing throughout life. From, they also have the physical stressors, the mental stressors. For them, it's obviously a little bit different. It's more of like laying around for 20 hours a day, jumping off the couch or jumping out of that vehicle, that repetitive impact stress. So I see a lot of lower neck issues with a lot of jumpy dogs. There's also the mental stressors for these guys. Of what we do with our dogs now is we create separation anxiety by just treating them like babies and holding them and petting them 24/7. So we create some of those mental stressors for them. And then there's also thunderstorms. I know my girl's definitely afraid of those, so she will be needing an adjustment this week. So all of those things are impacting them the same way they impact us. And then adjustments for these guys are very similar in the way that it's done. Of, I just use my hands going through, feeling for areas of the spine that aren't moving like they should. And that's where we get the nerves being impacted, creating all sorts of issues, whether that is, most of what I see is slowing down with old age, limping, paralysis. Those are some of the primary things. And most dogs, dog owners are told that your dog is getting old, they've got arthritis. Maybe we can do a medication or an injection for the rest of their lives. Okay, that is not an inherently painful thing, just like it's not for us. There's usually something going on that is deeper. So that's where a lot of the older dogs, I notice them just bouncing right back and getting a little bit more energy, a little bit more pep to them. And, I'm not touching that arthritis. I'm not changing anything. I'm just changing the way their bodies are functioning and the way they're healing. Let me see, what else? Everything with these guys is very, very gentle. There's no twisting, popping, anything crazy like you may see in all the TikTok videos. Most of those are same way with humans. maybe a little bit overdone.
And we get dogs that are nervous around other humans that come in all the time and see you. And there was one, I think last week, that told me, I don't know how this is going to go. She's so nervous around new people, around new offices, and I think when she walked out, she was like, that was the most relaxed, best experience that my dog's ever had.
Oh yeah. So it helps a lot with that same, you were talking about going into rest and digest. So a lot of dogs, they come in super excited or fearful or whatever that looks like for them wherever they're at. And after an adjustment, a lot of times they just go and sometimes I have a lot of them that'll just like lay down in the room and just, you can visibly see them relax. And that's amazing. A lot of times they'll, fall asleep in the car on the way home and they never even lay down in the car on the way.
Yeah.
So it's truly amazing just to see those changes there too.
Yeah. And I know, like, from personal experience, I've been surprised on some of the things that you can work on. So, like, a very common thing that can happen to older female dogs is that they start, well, as Ruben says, leaking urine. Like, they don't even know they're peeing. They're just, and then they immediately get put on a medication. But that's something that you can work on too, because it's a nerve issue, right?
Yes, incontinence. That was actually one of the things that my dog dealt with. And that was the first time that I realized chiropractic could actually help with it. Because usually, it's a nerve issue coming from that low back. Those nerves go to like the sphincters of the urethra, of the bladder. And if that muscle tone isn't there, then that's where you have just leaking urine. Versus when I do those adjustments, it's pretty quick that you see a change of the muscle tone increases and the problem just goes away. And I've gotten a lot of dogs off of medications they were going to be on forever.
Yeah.
It is perfectly safe, and it's so beneficial. It's not like I'm taking business away from vets. They are fantastic. They are, overtired and overworked most of the time, animals coming in for issues that, could be treated with chiropractic and just go away. And then the vets don't have to have all of that backlash on them if medications and rest and surgeries aren't working or people can't afford things. So it's a great alternative and a complement to what they provide.
And what's really cool about animals is they can't get a placebo effect.
Yes.
With humans, we can, there's a little bit of like, well, is it in my head that this is working? But with like animals, when they start playing again and everything, like, that there's no placebo effect there.
Because nothing else has changed. And it's usually the wife will bring in the dog and then the husband is not so sure, doesn't really believe in it. And then they're the ones that start pushing for the dog to go as soon as they see any problem like pop up or any extra stiffness. They're like, oh my gosh, they need to go to the chiropractor.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, thank you. They realized.
Awesome. Well, we are going to wrap up here because I know Dylan has to head out here in a second. I know, Dylan. But I just want to say, thank you this is a wonderful opportunity. We've loved working together with you guys in one space. It's awesome. And we've got our grand opening happening this week. We're super excited about. So we've got some specials going on for anybody who is in the area. If you want to come and see us, we've got some great specials with the chiropractic side of things, with our sauna and red light, PEMF therapy, the functional medicine side. So this is the time if you want to try it out. Come on in. We'd love to see you. So,
Woo woo.
thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.